Welcome to Imagination and Co-Creation, the Midwest Chapter Medical Librarian Association Conference for 2025. Paper Session 2, Day 2, and we'll begin in session.
Kelsey Coles will be presenting the case of the charming clinician, development of an instructional health misinformation escape room. Take it away, Chelsea.
All right, thank you. Can you just confirm that you are seeing my slides correctly?
Yes, we are.
Perfect. Okay. So, hello, everyone. I'm pleased to be here joining you from another MLA chapter. Sadly, I don't have any real life owls with me today, but hopefully I'll do my best to, keep your attention a little bit with this presentation. So I'm presenting on behalf of a team from the University of Pittsburgh Health Sciences Library System, where I'm a research and instruction librarian. And this is going to be about a project that my team has been working on now for about a year and a half. So we've been developing a health misinformation themed instructional escape room game for use in health sciences classrooms at Pitt. So we started developing this game last year for a couple reasons. First, we've been using the University of Washington's misinformation-themed escape room game called the Euphorigen Investigation in public libraries for several years now, and we've also run it on our campus a few times. But we found that it's not quite right for our audience of health sciences students, since it was really specifically designed for use in public libraries. We also knew from the literature that escape room games can be effective in library instruction, and we also knew that there's high interest in misinformation instruction on our campus, and that this topic is kind of being taught in a really patchwork way across the different schools of the health sciences, if it's being really taught at all in classrooms. So we decided to take the plunge and develop a game that was really tailored to our audience. So in early 2024, we applied for and received an Innovation in Education Award from the Provost Advisory Council on Instructional Excellence that would provide a budget for us to develop this game. So I'm going to cover the development process of the game in a bit more detail next, but first I just wanted to give you a quick taste of the overall final product so you can sort of have a sense of, where we're heading. So in our game, learners play as employees of a fictional government agency that investigates the truthfulness of ads promoting health products. And the agency has received complaints about this viral new wellness product called the Sensational Silver Smoothie, which is being promoted on social media, especially by a popular influencer called the Charming Clinician. So our learners are tasked with figuring out whether the smoothie is safe and effective and if the advertisements for it conform to regulations. So our learners play in teams of approximately 4. The game is primarily physical, but there are some digital elements as well. So for instance, in one of the puzzles, they go in and they have to search PubMed. This slide has a really small selection of some of the visual elements from the game that we developed. So we've got like the brief or the assignment that they're given at the start of the game. We have a couple elements from a couple of the puzzles on here. And finally, one of our "We Escaped" signs that the learners can take a group photo with once they successfully complete the game. Throughout the game, the learners solve a bunch of different types of puzzles. They're all designed to be instructional and not just like a complicated, confusing puzzle for the sake of doing a complicated, confusing puzzle. So our goal is that the learners are learning something from each of the puzzles that they're doing. And all of our puzzles are aligned with our learning objectives, which I have on this slide. So overall, the game development was a year-long process. So in summer 2024, we identified our learning objectives, which related to things like identifying reliable health websites like Medline Plus, bias and misleading language in news headlines, misleading graphs and charts, AI-generated images and deepfake videos and what the effects and impacts of those are, and using PubMed to find articles as well. During this time, we also drafted this very complex storyline and all of the puzzles as well as our assessments. So we had a pre-post survey that we gave to students before and after they played the game so we could measure knowledge gain and confidence, any changes in self-rated confidence in identifying misinformation. And then during the summer, we also recorded several videos using a hired actor who played the charming clinician. So we did not have to act in these videos ourselves. Our budget helped us out with that. All right, in phase 2, fall 2024, we recruited and held 3 focus groups to test out the gameplay and get just like feedback from students on, was it fun? Like what was confusing? What could we improve? That kind of thing. Almost all of our 6 health sciences schools were represented in our focus groups. We had 1 no-show and they were from the 6th school. So we almost got there. We gave the students food and monetary compensation for participating. So we had a ton of students like apply to join these focus groups. I think like well over 100, and we only ended up taking, let's see, 15 in the end. So there's a lot of interest in it. During the focus groups, each group would take our pre-survey to measure their knowledge on questions related to our learning objectives and rate their confidence in identifying health misinformation. They played through the game while we watched and hopefully not too obtrusively took notes on what they were finding, were the instructions confusing, anything like that. And then they took the post-survey to see if they've gained knowledge by playing the game. And then we did a semi-structured interview with them too, so they could share what they thought about the game with us. And then of course, based on all of that, the observations, the feedback, we made some significant changes to the game. And then finally, in spring 2025, we pilot tested the updated game in 3 different credit-bearing courses for almost 100 students in 2 different health sciences schools. Again, here we observed gameplay, figured out how it worked to scale up the game from 1 group to like up to 10 groups at once. And we sort of informally gathered like comments and feedback from the students. And they also took the pre and post survey. So in this phase, we also recognized the need for a shorter version of the game because we thought, based on our focus groups, it's going to take them like less than an hour to finish it. We found that that didn't necessarily hold true in our classrooms, and some of those were only 50-minute classes. So we quickly scrambled and made a shortened version of the game that has all the same learning objectives, but basically it shortens the final puzzle and it then fits within a 50-minute class period. And then, of course, after all this pilot testing, we made final, more minor revisions to the game as a result. So I want to cover, I'm only going to have time to cover a small selection of the results today. So if you have questions about them, feel free to get in touch with me. But so this is from the pre-post survey that students took during the pilot classroom phase. So we had 7 knowledge questions and 1 confidence question. I'm going to be highlighting 2 of the knowledge questions, and I'll talk about the confidence question as well. So what we did, I'm not the stats person, so if you have like complicated stats questions, I'll try to get them answered, but we paired learners' pre-survey and post-survey responses and analyzed the trends using what's called a McNamara test, enabled us to basically look at how many students were answering questions like more correctly, or they got it wrong before and right after. Less correctly, like they got it right before and wrong after, or they got the same before and after the game, and then whether that change was statistically significant. So first, we found that our intervention had a statistically significant effect on students' ability to distinguish real photographs from AI-generated photographs of people's faces as measured by their score on this particular assessment question. They were presented a series of faces before and then a different set of faces after. And we found that this was the most statistically significant question. It was a very impressive increase, we feel. This PubMed question, we found that our intervention had a statistically significant effect on students' ability to find a known article on PubMed as measured by their score on this question. And I believe we ended up finding a significant effect or increase on 5 of the 7 knowledge questions. And we looked at the other 2 and we found that it wasn't significant, likely because most students got it right both before and after doing the game. And then finally, Confidence. Our intervention had a statistically significant effect on students' self-reported confidence in their ability to determine if health information online is trustworthy. Paige, I see your question in the chat, and I will be addressing that in like 2 slides. All right, so lessons learned. We learned a ton from this process. We found it stressful at times, also super rewarding and fun. We found that including the experiences of self-selecting audiences, like the focus groups that we did. I sort of alluded to this before, but they may not always be representative of how like a captive audience, like a class, may experience the game. So those pilot classes we did were so helpful for us to make the game as good as it can be. We also had to figure out some ways to encourage learners to work quickly while not giving away the answers and undermining their learning. But really the biggest lesson we learned is that making an escape room, especially a physical one, is really hard. It takes a lot of time. A lot of people have contacted us, come up to us at conferences to ask for tips, whether they should make one. And a lot of times they end up being like, okay, I'm not actually going to be making one after all, now that I've heard what you've had to say. So not to like discourage people, it's super awesome and rewarding, but it does take a lot of time investment. So if you're interested in our game, we plan to share all of our materials publicly, along with a host and discussion guide, so that if you're interested, you can run this game at your own institution. We're also working on full data analysis for a manuscript for publication. And this fall, we've been booked to run the game in 3 4-credit courses, totaling 14 classes. I think that's over 200 students, including all of our first-year public health students, which we think is super cool. So if you would like to be notified when we release our materials, you can use this QR code or use the URL, put in your email, and we will update you when those are available. So I think I might have a couple minutes if anyone has any questions.
Yes, is there any questions? You addressed the one question that was placed in chat. Any other questions? Well, Kelsey, I want to say this was a fantastic, presentation, and thank you so much for sharing the materials, because clearly it's a lot of work and it will be helpful for others who want to have the same offering at their institution, but would like to shortcut some of the work.
Absolutely, thanks.
Any questions? No other questions are in chat. Okay, thank you, Kelsey. All right. So our next presentation is by Cecilia Perkins-Vetter, Hannah Craven, and Renee Wonke, and they are going to present campus-wide examination of evidence synthesis publication output.
All right, let me pull that up. Are we going with, I think that's not the schedule that's on the website, but I am happy to move forward.
Yes, this is the
Okay.
schedule I was told that we have delivered. Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Okay, sorry, let me share my screen. Awesome. All right. Am I sharing the right screen? We good?
Yes, you are.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah, so my name is Cecilia Perkins-Vetter, and along with some of my colleagues, Hannah Craven, Rachel Hinrichs, and Renee Wonke, we are excited to talk about a project we have been doing, examining evidence synthesis at our campus. Now, myself, Hannah, and Renee all work at the Ruth Lilly Medical Library through IU School of Medicine, and Rachel works on the same campus as us, but at the University Library at IU Indianapolis. So this is a really brief overview of what we're going to be covering, and I'll be talking through these, and Renee and Hannah will as well. So I mentioned our team. We are 3 health sciences librarians and 1 MLIS student. We are very fortunate that Renee Wonke is both an employee at the Ruth Lilly Medical Library and a student who is willing to work with us. And we were wanting to see what the evidence synthesis publications looked like coming out of IU Indianapolis, one single university. Now, this can get a little bit confusing because here at IU Indianapolis, there are 18 schools and colleges, and so that includes a wide variety of schools, but it also includes some of our more professional schools like the School of Dentistry, the McKinney School of Law, and the School of Medicine. Now, the IU School of Medicine is a little confusing campus-wide because we are technically located all over the state of Indiana. So on the right-hand side, there is an image of the state, and you'll see that we have places where faculty are located, students are located at Indianapolis and our 8 regional campuses. Though we have this dispersed model, everybody is considered part of our IU Indianapolis campus. And so when we say campus wide, we are including those School of Medicine people, no matter technically where they are physically standing in their day-to-day lives. And then we created a protocol for this project that we put on OSF. So the link is here in this QR code. We're also going to make sure it's on Padlet for you to access. And that will kind of go into more about our objectives and other things we've talked about in this project. So what are those objectives? So when we went into this project, we had a couple questions that we were asking, and we were thinking, you know, we know at the School of Medicine and other health sciences departments, we do a lot of evidence synthesis, but we were saying, do our non-health sciences librarians need this same level of training? Looking at what is coming out of our campus to say, is there a potential need for um, an evidence synthesis coordinator or some other position? We also want to make sure that we're meeting professional development needs, and do our librarians added onto a search, does that increase the search quality? So we set out 2 null hypotheses, which we put in our protocol. And remember, when you have a null hypothesis for a project, your hope is that you are going to either reject or accept the null hypothesis at the end of your research project. And so for us, one of our null hypotheses was evidence synthesis projects, and I should have defined that earlier. That includes scoping reviews, systematic reviews, rapid reviews, umbrella reviews, those types of evidence synthesis works. Our null hypothesis is that those projects are only published by authors affiliated with the health sciences disciplines at IU Indianapolis. And then our second null hypothesis was that librarian co-authorship only occurs in evidence synthesis publications by campus affiliated authors in the health sciences discipline, meaning that just in those health sciences disciplines, we see that co-authorship of librarians on our systematic scoping reviews and other types of evidence synthesis projects.
All right, so I'll talk about our search really quick. And you can see the whole thing on page 5 of our protocol. It sounds simple, but it's not. So our database that we chose was Scopus because it has a wide range of disciplines that are present on IU Indianapolis campus, and it has a pretty strong affiliation searching. We utilize the date range from 2021 to 2025 because we all know Prisma S guidelines came out in 2020, and we know the long duration of scholarly communication. So we wanted to give people a year to have time to publish projects with the new Prisma S Prisma Search guidelines. I will also note that during this time frame, our IU Indianapolis campus had a name change. I won't get into the politics, but that made the search really messy. So fun times. The concepts of our search was IU School of Medicine, which we got from our research metrics librarian, Miriam Ramirez. Thank you very much, Miriam. And Rachel Hinrichs, one of our co-authors, built the IU Indianapolis affiliation search. And then we combined that with an evidence synthesis search hedge that we adapted from a conference talk that was from MLA earlier this year. So another reason to put your slides online. Next slide. So we didn't do the typical title abstract screening. We used Covidence, but we put everything straight into the full text screening portion. And this is where we began what we called, instead of like title abstract or full text screening, the author affiliation and methods screening. And you can see here our inclusion criteria. Of course, we had 2 independent reviewers verify at least one author on each paper was affiliated with IU Indy or IU School of Medicine, and reviewed the methods section to determine if it truly was an evidence synthesis project for each article. Renee will talk about what we learned during that process later. Then we had conflicts resolved by a 3rd reviewer or at a consensus meeting. So now we're about a quarter of the way through extraction 1 phase. We are recording whether the publications included a librarian co-author. We're identifying the school within IU Indianapolis for each affiliated author. And if it's from the School of Medicine, we're drilling down even further to the affiliated department that is involved. Next slide. So after we complete extraction 1, which you'll see the numbers in a minute and why it's going to take a minute, we will begin extraction 2, which will be a lot more meaty information. So we plan to do a smaller subset of randomly selected articles. For our final included pool, we are planning to learn how to use a new tool, REDCap, new to us, very established tool. And then extract information to assess the quality of the reporting of the searches and other aspects of those projects. And of course, we got our extraction is based on aspects from Prisma, Prisma S, and the press checklist. Next slide.
I will be talking a little bit about our preliminary results. So we have a modified Prisma flowchart here, and we were able to identify 986 studies from our systematic search. After the 2 authors screened the full text of each article, 477 articles moved on to extraction 1, and 505 were excluded. Of those excluded articles, we had 8 protocol articles, 42 did not contain an IU Indianapolis or IU School of Medicine author. Typically, this meant one of 3 things. The author was IU Health, which sometimes gets confusing because it's not affiliated with IU Indianapolis, or the author was Purdue only, specifically after the IU PUI split. And the last thing we noticed was sometimes there was an IU author who was part of a consensus group that was listed in the article but was not a primary author. One article we were unable to get full text, and then the remaining 454 articles were considered not to be evidence synthesis project. Next slide. So we learned lots of things during our preliminary results. We found authors would frequently incorrectly list their affiliation with the School of Medicine. So in the article, we would have to search the internet to determine their correct affiliation. An example is an author may say they're part of the cardiovascular department. However, the correct affiliation is the Division of Cardiovascular Medicine from the Department of Medicine. Additionally, we found it was difficult to tell if an article was an evidence synthesis project from the title and abstract alone. Some authors wouldn't call their article a systematic review, despite following Prisma guidelines for identifying and extracting data. Other authors would use the systematic review in their title, but it turned out that it was only a literature or narrative review. We came up with the term SRINO to describe these articles, systematic review in name only. We decided to informally add that in our inclusion criteria, so those proceeded to the extraction process. We would often find case reports with either a meta-analysis or a literature review. Authors would try to add this to their articles to move it up in the credibility pyramid. We had to take more time to determine if these additions made the article meet our criteria as evidence synthesis. And if they claimed meta-analysis or systematic review in the title, as mentioned before, we would allow those to proceed to our extraction group. Lastly, there were many practice guidelines, which are considered to be some of the most trusted and credible reviews for physicians. It was difficult to tell if they included a systematic review in their search. However, our librarians have experience working on systematic reviews for practice guidelines, so we knew that this was a possibility. Otherwise, this would have been left obvious to the untrained eye. We had to take more time to read through those methods and appendices to determine if they could be considered an evidence synthesis project. Next slide. Here we have a data visualization of our first 160 extracted articles, which is about a quarter of the total number of articles in our first extraction. There are multiple circles here representing each academic school, with some circles overlapping to represent collaboration across disciplines. Each circle includes the number of publications. Go ahead and next slide. At this point, I said before, we extracted 160 articles, and of those, only 47 had a librarian as a co-author or mentioned in the methods. Of those 47, only 19 had a librarian affiliated with IU Indianapolis. If this trend continues, this shows that librarians are either underutilized or we are at capacity. Next slide.
So for our next steps, we are actively screening our remaining 300 plus articles in our initial extraction phase, and then we'll be moving on to that second round of extraction where we're going to be looking closer at quality of those reviews. And then we're really going to be looking more at, can we accept or reject that null hypothesis? Are we seeing these systematic reviews and librarians affiliated with them outside of our health sciences departments on this campus? And then also what this means for libraries at IU Indianapolis. So like Renee mentioned, are we at capacity? Does this help us justify additional either positions or additional time to spend doing these types of reviews? And do we need to widen who is getting that type of professional development? So we are currently in the middle of this, but already excited about some of the things we are finding. And this is our thank you slide with our slides available. And I have already seen a couple questions that I want to answer. One of it was talking about librarians as co-authorship versus librarians in the acknowledgements. And we actually noticed that there are a lot in the acknowledgements or mentioned somehow in the methods. And so we are recording if the librarian built the search. So whether the acknowledgements or the methods say the librarian provided us with the search or built the search, but we're excluding ones where they're like, we had a library consult type question. Renee, there are some questions about the circles, and that was all you.
Yes, that's draw.io. I think it's through Google. I'm going to double check and I can send it in the chat.
Yeah.
Thanks, Hannah. You got it.
I think the
And-
other question, oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, was it the affiliation question?
Yeah, I think that was answered by Hannah.
Yeah, I'll verbalize it for the recording, I suppose. So let me scroll back up to it. So Liz asked, are we finding additional affiliation terms that you missed, and how would we handle that going forward? I'm putting a lot of faith in Miriam Ramirez's very strong affiliation search, and I can't speak as much to the IUPUI or IU Indianapolis side, but Rachel did a really great job as well. We accounted for erroneous things in there because everyone does do a confusing affiliation. So you'll notice if you go look at the full search that it's like a lot of things are combined with Indiana or Indianapolis. So it's a pretty sensitive. It's sensitive and specific. It's a pretty sensitive search. We didn't have too many false positives. So that was really good. And then Amy Blevins, who works with us as well, she put in the chat a link to one of our LibGuides that Miriam and I put together, trying to help people understand how to list their affiliation. And Miriam made a really great what we call affiliation slicer, where you can search your department and it tells you how to properly do that. So, if only everyone used that, but baby
true.
steps.
Yeah,
Affiliation searches are a pain, aren't they?
and
Yes.
we mentioned a local hospital system is IU Health, which has no affiliation or not much affiliation to IU, the university. And so we're screening those out.
Great. Thank you so much, Cecilia, Renee, and Hannah. We are out of time, so we need to move on to our next presentation. Our next presenter is Kayla Robinson, who is going to be presenting What is PubMed and Other Things I Wish I Learned in Library School, Reflections of a Librarian's First Year Teaching. Take it away, Kayla. And your slides are showing.
Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you once again, everyone, for being here. My name is Kayla Robinson. I'm a health sciences librarian at the University of Kentucky Medical Center Library. And today I'm going to talk to you all about a very interesting experience that I've been having this semester, which is my first year as an adjunct professor for the University of Kentucky Library School. Okay. So we're going to talk about kind of how I got into this role, the things I've been doing to prepare myself to teach, and then some reflections on the first half of the semester. So to begin, the director of my library was approached by some of the administrators of the iSchool at UK, asking her to potentially teach a consumer health information course. My director had literally just started her new role like in the last 3 months, so she deferred to me. She asked me if I would be interested in taking that on for her, and I agreed. So they interviewed me twice in December of last year and in February of this year, and I formally accepted the offer in spring of 2025. So I am a fairly-ish recent graduate of the University of Kentucky iSchool. So I actually took this class, it's LIS ICT 627 in 2021. And so when I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about to the students in fall of 2025, over 4 years later, I was thinking about what did I actually remember from 4 years ago? How did the guest lectures that were provided during that semester impact me? Which assignments did I find useful and refreshing as a student? And most importantly, what did I wish that this class would have taught me 4 years ago? So I made myself a pretty extensive to-do list. I could have simply just kept the course outline from the previous years, but I'm not that kind of person. So I decided I wanted to essentially overhaul the course and give my own perspective to these students. Some of the things I needed to do was retrieve and update the old syllabus. What did I want to change? Figure out a new course outline, see what readings were done, updating them if necessary, and then considering the assignments that I had turned in the past. This is pretty extensive. And then I needed an action plan. So first things first, I had to learn to teach fully, beyond just the one shot or like sessions that I would do for my health sciences students. I had to learn to actually be a professor, which was incredibly daunting. I needed to update the syllabus by reviewing weekly lectures, refresh readings. I knew I wanted to provide the consumer health information specialization that the MLA and NNLM host for students specifically. So I needed to think about those requirements, consider grade weighting, which is never something that I've had to do before, build a new Canvas shell, and create new lecture materials. So I had approximately 6 real months to do this, and it took the whole 6 months. To update the syllabus, I had to leave the official outline. So the course objectives, I had to leave that alone because that was the course that had been approved by my new supervisors. I knew that each week I had to focus on a specific type of consumer health information or had a guest lecture. And then once again, I knew I wanted them to have that CHI/S. So what did I need to teach to make that happen, and what was already taught? The CHIS core competencies are know your community, know the health consumer, subject matter knowledge, health information eval, communication reference instruction, literacy and health literacy, tech, and ethical issues. I needed to cover all of that to ensure that my students could actually earn the specialization. So some of my weekly lecture titles are Forming Partnerships and Utilizing Resources, Understanding the Research Ecosystem, Evaluating Health Information, Choose Your Own Adventure Week, which is a week where I actually let my students decide what their lecture is going to be. So that's actually coming in week 12, which is about 4 weeks away. And I think the topic that they're going to pick is systematic reviews, which is really exciting for me. But once again, I deferred to them. As long as it was tangentially related to consumer health information, they could hear about it. And then most excitingly for me is PubMed Week. So last week was PubMed Week, and I taught them how to search PubMed like a librarian, and then I gave them 4 examples of practice searches that they could do to work on their searching skills in these health sciences databases over the course of the week, which was really fun. I had fun. I don't know if they had fun, but I had a great time. So that was the course outline and the lectures, but the readings, I did not want to use a paid textbook. I am good friends with our Open Educational Resources librarian here at UK, and so they have taught me the wonders of not paying for textbooks. So I kept some of the readings from the previous course, but I sourced new readings myself. A lot of the readings were from pre-2000, which I think is really valuable in some instances. But when we're talking about modern considerations, I didn't want my students reading something from 2005. So I updated a lot of those readings to post-COVID because that changed a lot in the consumer health field. I used library databases and also the horror Google Scholar. I read everything myself just to make sure it was saying what I thought it was going to be saying and kind of making the points that I wanted them to understand. And so basically every week there was 2 to 4 readings from different people in the field. So there was medical journal readings, public health readings, librarianship readings, IT readings, things like that. Okay, so the assignments, there are 6 major assignments, 3 of them coming from the previous instructor. So I kept the background paper, an interview assignment, which I really liked when I was a student, and then the CE credit experience. So essentially all of these are papers where they did some background gathering, interviewed a health professional, and then will eventually, they haven't done this one yet, sit through a CE credit, 4 CE credits, and write a paper about it, just so they can kind of learn from people who aren't me as well. But the last 3 assignments I devised myself. So we had a group assignment where they're going to find, they're going to create a PubMed search and then find consumer health materials and evaluate those using some of the evaluation tools. They're going to do an annotated bibliography and then a final project proposal, which I actually have not finalized yet. Don't tell any of my students, but they don't get to see it for a couple of weeks anyway, so I don't feel too bad. Bringing it together, once everything was done, I would create the Canvas shell for that week. So I kind of took some code from different Canvas shells that I was in the past, and I kind of adapted it to make it my own. But I would go week by week, and I'm still going week by week. I would finish the readings, make the presentations, and then film, and then upload everything to Canvas as I was adding things to the syllabus as well. So I formally began this work in May. I am still recording and still creating slides for this last half of the semester. I wanted everything to be done before August. That was, I think, the most delusional thing that I've done this semester. And of course, all of this is an overload for me. So I'm working full time. I had to do all of this outside of my traditional work hours. So there would be some days I'm working 10 to 12 hours on this class as well as my actual career. So that's been fun as well. Here is a screenshot from my Canvas shell for week 1. So I would put the week 1 lectures and readings in this page, and then I would pop out their discussion boards, and then I would let them know when their assignments were due, if there's one coming up. So everything is laid out in a way that I thought would make the most sense and would let them know the important things that are worth grades. So that's what this is. And then here are some examples of what it looks like inside. So I have objectives every week, links to their readings to go to the library pages. and then their discussion boards and when their assignments are due as well. So some successes, things that I'm proud of. I have made it a really important note to bring the focus on the practice of librarianship for this class and not just the theory. So connecting theory to practice is something that I wish I had a little bit more of as a student. And my professors are fantastic and a lot of them are still teaching. But as a health librarian specifically, I just wanted more of that like real life focus. And so that's what I'm trying to do in this class. I wanted to emulate real life experiences with assignments. So this group project, I wanted them to work on PubMed searches as a group because you're not normally in a silo. A lot of librarians, especially in my library, I'm not working by myself. And so I have people to bounce ideas off of. And I wanted to emulate that with these assignments, letting them know that they're not alone and there are people in their corner. Teaching my students things I wish I had learned in school. So the research ecosystem, how does publishing work? What are grants? What are what are the major study designs? How do those reflect in research? What is a systematic review? All of that stuff that I learned as a graduate assistant, but wish I could have gotten a little bit more of in school. And then of course, connecting with future library professionals is really fun and rewarding for me. I really, really like my students. I think they're cool people. Okay, some challenges, balancing my job, teaching, and I'm actually in a class of my own. I'm earning a master's in public health. I'm taking one class at a time, so it's not that serious, but I'm teaching, learning, and working, which means that I'm not sleeping very much this semester, but it's fine. It's been really rewarding. Considering the wording of assignments, so I've gotten a lot of questions over the semester about how I worded something, and I've realized that just because I thought I was making it clear, I was definitely not. So that has been a little bit of a struggle as well. How much to assign, what isn't enough. I think that I've been balancing that pretty well, but I had one of my teacher friends tell me that I had assigned too much over Thanksgiving break because I had forgotten it was Thanksgiving. Awesome. And of course, as always, imposter syndrome. I'm not a professional instructor. I instruct, but I'm not a teacher. This isn't my full-time career. So just kind of making sure I was positioning myself to be the best possible instructor. So some recommendations, if this is an opportunity that as librarians you ever have, start as early as possible. I did not start until I received my letter, just in case they were like, nah, we're going in a different direction. So I chose to not start until I got that letter in case I was doing work that wasn't going to be compensated, but I kind of wish I would have started earlier, just a little bit. So start as soon as possible, if possible. Find and read materials on teaching. And if you have any friends or colleagues or family members who teach full-time, I always recommend talking to them, speaking to them if possible, because they really humbled me. They really humbled me quite a bit. And then don't be afraid to ask for guest lectures for topics where you have knowledge gaps. So I have some knowledge gaps in health collections and in some health collection stuff. So I actually asked the director to come and give a guest lecture to my students. This is all asynchronous as well. So some next steps, the class isn't even halfway over, but I'm having a great time. So my goals are eventually to upload the entire class outline, including the readings and my lecture slides as open access materials. However, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to do that. I think I saw somewhere that I might not be allowed to do that. And also my students are still taking the class, so I don't want to do them that disservice of publishing all of the stuff that they're learning until after they're done. So I'm going to see if I can do that and then do it once my students are done. And then I actually just read this book, The New College Classroom for Asynchronous Teaching, and it was excellent. So that is my presentation.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kayla, and thank you for all your work on this. There are a couple of questions in chat for you. One is, would you be willing to share your syllabus?
Oh, yes. I think I'm allowed to do that. That's part of what I'm needing to check on is that I'm not entirely sure what I can and can't share. I think the syllabi are like publicly available, but I absolutely don't mind to share it
Okay.
at all.
Wonderful. And then any concerns with students using AI to complete assignments if AI is not allowed in assignments?
I am always going to be concerned about that. I'm a pretty staunch, not lover of AI, but I can't like unless there's abject proof that they're using it because they're not allowed to use it. I have told them that explicitly, but I have no idea. I'm not quite able to detect what is AI written. I don't use Turnitin because I think it has a lot of false flags. So if they are, I don't think any of them are, but if they are, I honestly would have no idea. And honestly, yeah, I don't know. I don't think they are, but if they are, that's their business, I guess, as long as I can't tell, they can choose to do that if they want to be sneaky.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Kayla. We're going to move on to our next speaker. That is Leah Leininger, and she's going to be presenting on using OpenAlex to explore publication output. Take it away, Leah.
All right. Thank you so much.
And your slides are good.
All right. Thank you. I am a nursing and health sciences librarian at UNC Greensboro, and I am going to be introducing OpenAlex and a few of the ways that I have very broadly explored it to answer a few questions. So, quick question for the room. Has anyone here used OpenAlex before? And I will let you put that into chat, and I'm expecting some yeses and some nos. Oh my gosh, there's so many yeses. Oh wow. So there are a few nos. Sorry, overreaction. So everyone who's tried it, feel free to add some things in during the presentation, side notes, love those. I think it's a very exciting tool, and I'm looking forward to talking to you about it, about my experiences with it. It is a map of the world's research ecosystem. It provides information on sources like papers, books, data sets, also authors, institutions, publishers, and journals. It then links these components to each other. It draws its data from open repositories and open registries such as Crossref, DataCite, PubMed, and many, many others. It does also parse some information from papers themselves. It was developed by the nonprofit company that is now called OpenAlex. This is part of a chart that I pulled from their website. I'm sorry, I trimmed it so it would fit on this slide, but it shows the amount of content in several systems. It compares OpenAlex to Scopus, Web of Science, Dimensions, and Google Scholar. So I will say that well, all of these sources or resources are going to provide information and also links between works or sources that cite each other. And many of them will provide other linkages and profiles, such as author profiles or institutional profiles, and sometimes even more. One thing about OpenAlex that, I'm sorry, does not appear on this slide is the fact that it is openly available. The data have a Creative Commons license. There is a lot of open documentation about how their product works and even difficulties that they have making their system do everything that they want it to do. For instance, it is apparently non-trivial to parse affiliation information from papers so that authors can be matched with institutions. But there is no paywall. There is no login requirement to search any of the data. Now, they do use a freemium model. So I use the free access, but if you pay for access, then you get a higher tier of customer support, and you also get, I think, additional training and unlimited downloads. To me, the openness gives it a little bit of an edge over some of the products that are a lot better known, and at this point, a lot better researched, although there are people researching OpenAlex and doing these sort of interesting comparisons. So I'm thinking that a lot of us have searched at least one of these products before. So just in general, my question to the room is, if you started using an open product that was comparable to a Scopus or a Web of Science or a Google Scholar, what kind of information would you want to gather? I can tell you, just continuing on with my presentation, that my institution can no longer subscribe to Scopus or Web of Science. So when I started exploring OpenAlex, I was interested in getting information about institutional publications or output. So this is a short list of some of the questions that I had. What types of publications or outputs have been coming out of UNCG? What tends to be highly cited? What are the external collaborations? And also, who are the funders? OpenAlex allows searching via APIs, but I use the web interface at openalex.org. When I type UNCG into the search box, it finds an institutional profile for me, and that links to the ROR registry of institutions. So that's what that is based on. When I launch the search, it will seek all of the works that it has ingested, that it knows about, that have, where at least one of the authors have some affiliation with UNCG. On the results screen, across the top is a search, which I can refine and limit if I want to. There is also, when I look down, a list of works, and the default sort is what I see other people are interested in too, citations or cited references. The list of works affiliated with my institution is sorted by default by the number of times cited. So this means basically how many connections has OpenAlex been able to find with later citing sources. And you can't really tell on this slide, but that is a link. So this system does do what you see in Google Scholar and other systems. It links to the later citing sources. And above the list of works, just in the kind of banner up there, I can resort the list by a couple of variations of citations and also by date, by relevance. There is a download button that will let me download up to 100,000 works. And for the one work that I showed on this screen, I could click into it in the live system to see a record for that work. And in many cases, I'm able to, well, at UNCG, in some cases, I'll say, we do okay at open access. In some cases, it gives a link through to open access, which is kind of exciting. And just thinking about the content, what's actually showing up as a top cited or highly cited result. This is a paper that was co-authored by Dr. Dan Bibeau, and for many years, when we used to have Scopus and before that Web of Science, this paper was typically at the top of the list or near the top of the list for most cited. So this tracks well enough that my interest is still very piqued by this product, and I am interested in continuing to explore it. And looking overall at, if I'm on the results screen and I'm just looking at it overall, if I keep reading across to the right, I will see summaries and filters. So how many works have at least one author affiliated with UNCG. And then, of course, some of these summaries that I can use to interact with and refine the results list on the other side of the page. Above these filters is a plus sign. And this is one of the main strengths, I think, of this system. There are so many filters available here, not just author names, but also publishers, sustainable development goals, funders, all kinds of things. It's really rich in that type of data. Next to it is a little download arrow as well. So if I were to dive down a little more into types of works or types of output affiliated with UNCG. Above that summary are just three little dots that I can click on to download a CSV summary. And this is where I start to have a few questions, just in casual exploration. When I look down the list, I see that only 3 dissertations are listed for UNCG. We have had a number of PhD programs for many decades. We have a lot of dissertations. So um, I'm wondering whether, jury is still out on this, I'm wondering whether has the have those sources not been ingested by OpenAlex, or perhaps is that connection not being made with UNCG? And they do have a really excellent sort of decision tree and guidance on how to correct errors that you find. And I have already done the first thing, which is check the ROR profile for my institution. But there are a number of other things that could be happening. Also, I will say work types. It is very valuable to look at their documentation and then click a little further, go out into Crossref, which is where they base a lot of these work types on, just to read the descriptions and see what sort of things come up in terms of what types of things we're finding. For external collaborations, these institutions, it is based on affiliations listed by every author on a work. So if you look at the summary of institutions, this naturally gives you institutions in common with UNCG via the works list. And if I download the list, just the top of it looks very plausible. It's a lot of other institutions in our region. There are some national organizations that make a lot of sense for the kind of work that we're doing. Not shown on this slide. When I look a little farther down the list, I see a lot of collaborations, or a high numbers of counts listed for some institutions in other countries. And I think if you start to use OpenAlex, you really start to suss out some of the details behind this. For instance, in one case, there was a UNCG author that was one of 90 authors on a project that produced a lot of data sets. So that was kind of how that came up. But there are definitely some unexpected things that come up. And some of it, I think, or some of the unexpectedness is kind of learning the system and learning where the data are coming from and what these categories really mean. And funding I threw in really just for fun. I just thought it would be interesting to see who the funders are supporting UNCG researchers. Most of the funding data currently comes from Crossref, but I have seen in some of their announcements that they have gotten a big grant from Wellcome Trust. So they are also going to be doing a lot more parsing of the full text of papers, those funding acknowledgements. And also they're going to be ingesting lists of grants that are publicly accessible from funders. And when I look at just the short list of funders, these all look like they make a lot of sense. I will say, as a librarian who works with the health sciences, but I also work shoulder to shoulder with social sciences and some of the professions, as well as some of our arts and humanities librarians. I feel a little bad for our arts and humanities people at my institution. UNCG has very active performing arts and lots of other areas. I hope they're getting funding. I think they probably are. One thing that I would do if I were to redo this presentation is take a little deeper dive and look at some of the published articles that talk about subject coverage of OpenAlex. I think there are some studies out there like that, and they're well worth looking at. Overall, my reaction is appreciation. I love the fact that this is an open product that I am able to use easily. I think that it's very interesting to me day to day. I am going to continue using Google Scholar, of course, but just having an open product that where I know that my attention is not being monetized. An organization that is open about its business practices and how the product works. I value that a lot. There's also a lot of data here. There are a lot of connections, and that is getting better all the time. They're finding new links and new connections. Also, the free level of customer support and their user group are very helpful. Yes, there are gaps and mismatches, but they do have good guidance for fixing and reporting errors. I feel like OpenAlex would be easier to use if I had expertise using APIs or expertise in scientometrics or bibliometrics. But on the other hand, this is such a good tool for learning those areas. So I think anybody who wants to get into this could easily use the system to help them along. In general, I have concern about the environmental impact of products that I use. That is not specific to OpenAlex. I'm just starting to ask these questions. So my email is on the screen for questions, and there are lots and lots of places to look for more information.
Thank you, Leah. I don't see any questions in chat, but there was a comment from Paige Wilson that maybe you'd like to comment on. Paige said, just as a caution, I noticed OpenAlex isn't the best at author disambiguation. To be fair, most databases aren't. When I search my own profile, it has lots of publications that aren't mine. Weirdly enough, its metadata claims that these publications have Paige as an author first name, but when you look at it, it's a completely different first name like Petra. And I've also noticed it includes links to LibGuides as works, which is interesting. Do you have anything to add?
Yes. Okay. The LibGuides comment is funny just because I was in a town hall webinar recently, and one of the, I think probably paid subscribers to OpenAlex said, for the love of God, please stop including LibGuides. So I think that the next iteration of OpenAlex, they're beta testing a new version called Walden this month. I think that things like LibGuides won't be as prominent, but definitely to address the bigger question, yes, sometimes the data is very messy. I noticed problems with my own. I had 2 author profiles in there, or I had works. Yeah, I had basically 2 author profiles. OpenAlex does give you a mechanism to report errors like this. It is a ticketing system. It's really easy to use. They are very responsive, and they are going to be moving towards more of a Wikipedia system where users who get a little bit of training, and maybe they're power users, will be able to kind of community correct some of these things instead of having all of the fixes be on a ticketing system that goes to a very small team of developers. I think maybe 5 to 10 people.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Leah.
You're welcome.
We're going to move on to our next presenter. Our last is Stephanie Henderson, Annabelle Holt, and Rebecca Morgan, and they're going to present creative collaborations, inspiring engagement by hosting an NLM traveling exhibits. And your slides look good.
Great. Thank you. Welcome to our presentation, Creating Collaborations, Inspiring Engagement Through Hosting an NLM Traveling Exhibit. My name is Stephanie Henderson, and I'll be giving our presentation today with my colleagues Annabelle Holt and Rebecca Morgan. Our other co-authors on the project were Laura Davison, Beth Reeder, and Amanda Williams, and we're all from the University of Kentucky Medical Center Library. All right, so today we are going to share how our library's innovative approach to partnership and programming enhanced the engagement during our recent hosting of a National Library of Medicine traveling exhibit. We sought to showcase unique medical collections, encouraging interdisciplinary partnerships, and highlighting the library's role as a center for research, education, and outreach. In addition to these aims, we will demonstrate how our library actively engaged users through a variety of creative programs and collaborative partnerships. We will highlight the unique events and activities that accompanied the NLM traveling exhibit, such as interactive workshops, special displays, and collaborative efforts with other campus library departments and community members. Our presentation will also share key lessons learned through the process and discuss the outcomes achieved, providing insights for other libraries interested in hosting similar exhibits. The National Library of Medicine traveling exhibits are curated materials to share important stories about history, society, and medicine while linking visitors to reliable health information sources like Medline Plus and PubMed. These graphic roll-up banner displays travel to libraries and cultural institutions across the United States. Our library requested to host an exhibit through an open call for host sites. We were selected to receive the traveling exhibit Take Two and Call Me in the Morning, the Story of Aspirin Revisited. We hosted it from April 28th to June 7th, 2025. So full disclosure, we knew that there was like a Harry Potter exhibit, and we really wanted that one. And we thought, oh, we got aspirin. Yay. How are we going to create programming around aspirin? And I think we did a really good job. But the whole purpose of the exhibit, it kind of presents the historical development of aspirin from its ancient uses to its modern significance. So willow bark has been used for centuries to help manage pain and reduce fevers. In the late 1800s, researchers developed a compound similar to willow bark's active ingredients, leading to the creation of essential medication widely used today. So this exhibit built upon the 1959 display Acetylsalicylic Acid, the Story of Aspirin. And so a little bit of sad news. Unfortunately, earlier this month, we learned that the NLM is pausing the traveling exhibit program. So their website says the traveling exhibit service is paused until further notice. As a result, the booking process is on hold and there will be no calls for requests or opportunities to reserve for the foreseeable future. Exhibits currently on tour will continue as planned, and we will remain committed to supporting host venue sites during this transition. So that was a little bit of unfortunate news that we heard. So the project began with the formation of a diverse planning group. We helped, which helped shape our vision and organize activities to support the exhibit. We utilized digital tools such as a Teams folder to centralize documentation and a running agenda to track progress and distribute tasks. Regular updates and open communication allowed the team to address challenges, stay organized, and maintain momentum through the months-long process. You can see our timeline on the slide. We had our initial brainstorming meetings about 8 months prior to the opening of the exhibit. Since this was our first time hosting one of these exhibits, I wanted to give us plenty of time to plan the programming that we would do around the exhibit. So the NLM encourages host libraries to offer concurrent programming to make traveling exhibits free and open to the public. We also had time to visit our other campus libraries to see how we could partner with them for this exhibit. Collaboration was at the heart of our approach. We partnered with colleagues across the library system, including a rare books librarian, who curated a special pop-up exhibit featuring the public debut of our donated Charles T. Ambrose MD collection. This collection showcased historical documents dealing with aspirin's origins from willow bark, as well as early herbal medicine texts. To enhance the visual appeal of the exhibit, we partnered with the Education Library to produce chemical symbols and molecular models using their 3D printer. And we partnered with the Science and Engineering Library for custom button making, so further promoting library makerspace resources. So the buttons that we designed were the aspirin pill, which was very popular. We had the title of the exhibit featuring 2 aspirin pills and willow leaves, a willow tree, a historical advertisement of a nurse with aspirin pills. And then we also did general UK libraries buttons and my personal favorite, the I Heart PubMed. We also utilized some of our off-site storage and main campus library collections. We created a display of supporting materials for the traveling exhibit, including historical articles and aspirin advertisements. Programming extended beyond displays. We also worked with our pharmacy librarian to offer a free public workshop on open access drug information. Annabelle will take it over now.
Thank you, Stephanie. So I am going to walk you through the highlights of the programming that we developed for the aspirin exhibit. So we officially kicked everything off with an opening reception in our library that had over 65 attendees from across the university and also our branch libraries. And this included the friends and family of Dr. Charles Ambrose that joined us to celebrate the public debut of his donated collection, which was really special. And to make the event more engaging, we offered refreshments and we had some fun giveaways for attendees. And this is where we use those 3D printed chemical symbols from the Education Library and those custom buttons from the Science and Engineering Library. And on the slide, you'll see a photo of a willow plant page. And this is just one example of the kind of material that we showcased. Next slide, please. Moving on to the display itself, inside the library, we curated a book exhibit using items from our own collection, along with a special pop-up display featuring herbal medicine texts from Dr. Ambrose's collection. And our Rare Books librarian helped bring that part of the programming to life. We also transformed our computer lab into a space where visitors could view and browse through the donated books. This is just as Dr. Ambrose had hoped when he gifted them to the university. And on this slide, I'll take you through the photos from left to right. You'll see on the top left, the library's display of books and journals related to the history of aspirin. You'll see this like right as you enter our library. So it was a good viewing space for people as they came in and out of our space. And then we also, to the right of that, have a picture of two colleagues at the Rare Books pop-up exhibit, including our Rare Books librarian who helped us put that together. On the right, you'll see the NLM traveling exhibit. And on the very bottom, you'll see some of the rare books display. Next slide. So in addition to the physical displays, we developed some educational programming to complement the exhibit. This included a public webinar and an herbal flower display. On this slide, you'll see an image of one of our most popular giveaway items, which was this handbag printed with botanical illustrations from Elizabeth Blackwell's A Curious Herbal, which was published in 1737. Next slide, please. Our programming extended beyond our physical displays. We hosted a free public webinar on open access drug information that was led by our pharmacy liaison, Rebecca Morgan, who you'll hear from here shortly. And the session introduced attendees to some free resources from the National Library of Medicine, including PubMed and DailyMed. The workshop was recorded and shared on our Research Workshop Series website, and the workshop received 17 registrations and has been viewed 21 times on YouTube. Next slide, please. So to round out the exhibit, one of our planning team members created a floral display featuring individual plants used in early herbal medicine, and each flower was tagged with a description pulled from the 1737 text, A Curious Herbal by Elizabeth Blackwell. So on this slide, you'll see a picture of that herbal display in our library. Now I'm going to pass it over to Rebecca Morgan.
Thank you, Annabelle. I'm going to wrap up the presentation by discussing some of the challenges we faced and some of the lessons we learned from this whole experience. When developing the programming around this exhibit, we understandably ran into challenges, as one often does when doing this. Because this is a drug-related topic, our original plans did include significant involvement from the College of Pharmacy. We had discussed asking a speaker from pharmacy to give a presentation on a related topic, and we had even considered creating a research event featuring posters from College of Pharmacy students. Unfortunately, our exhibit opened during the week of finals for the College of Pharmacy, so that made us have to abandon that pretty quickly. But it ended up being fine because we ended up pivoting to working with UK Special Collections and doing some of the herbal displays that Annabelle just showed. And instead of having a pharmacy speaker, we created the open access drug resources webinar instead. And what we learned in processing and addressing these challenges is to always stay flexible and have a plan B, because the end product we created looks very different from what we envisioned. And even though we had to abandon the pharmacy angle, we were still able to expand to the broader topic of herbal remedies. And even though we had some worries in the moment about what we would do to create this broader programming, ultimately expanding to this broader topic did benefit us. And it did take a lot of communication and collaboration to bring it together, but it also allowed us to move to a different angle and create some effective late additions, such as the herbal flower display and the special collections book exhibit. Overall, the exhibit was a success, and it helped reinforce the Medical Center Library's reputation as a hub for research, learning, and community engagement. As mentioned, the event was well attended with 65 attendees just for the opening day. And we received a lot of positive feedback for both the in-person and virtual programming. For example, the Dean of UK Libraries said it was the best attended event that he had been part of or attended through the library system. And attendees of the Open Access Drug Research webinar reported that they had learned about new resources and that they plan to utilize them in their future practice. This exhibit also strengthened collaboration within our library system internally. We now have stronger than ever relationships with Special Collections and our education library, who helped print some of the 3D drug diagrams that you saw in some earlier pictures and helped create some of our exhibits. And in the future, we do hope that we can continue these collaborations, and that will only help raise the profile of all our libraries across UK's campus. Next slide, please. To really sum everything up, creativity and collaboration were the cornerstones of this project. Being creative and flexible allowed us to shift our angle and bring in new collaborators, which ultimately increased engagement and created a bigger impact. I think the biggest lesson we learned is that these exhibits can be springboards for much broader programming, and we look forward to finding new ways to collaborate with our UK colleagues and hopefully with external colleagues and experts in future exhibits. Looking ahead, we will still receive the NLM exhibit Care and Custody Past Response to Mental Health, scheduled for spring 2026. And this will help ensure our library continues to serve as a central facilitator of educational and outreach initiatives. But unfortunately, as Stephanie mentioned, NLM traveling exhibits are on pause after spring 2026. But we hope they'll begin again in the future so we can continue to develop additional programming in the same vein as this exhibit. Thank you all so much for your attention. You can reach any of us at the following email, and we can take any questions that you have.
Thank you so much to our presenters, and a lot of comments in chat about how beautiful your slides look and how the display looked gorgeous and informative. And I don't see any questions, but please continue the conversation in Padlet after the presentation if you have more questions or have anything to add. So thank you all for attending this paper session, and let's give our speakers a wonderful round of virtual applause. And I think that our next presentation is going to be from Covidence. Our Lunch and Learn starts at 12:05.
You are right.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Okay, yeah, so we have our lunch break and our 2 exhibitor lunch and learns during that break today. So we are running just a few minutes behind, but perfectly in time to start the first lunch and learn in 1 minute. So I will let Sarah Westall introduce our first presentation, and thank you so much for our exhibitors for joining us.
Hello, everybody. I am Sarah Westall, the exhibits chair. And first off, we have Covidence for our Lunch and Learn exhibitor. And Covidence was established in 2014 as a nonprofit SAAS enterprise and offers a streamlined systematic review platform for researchers and students to accelerate citation screening, full text review, and data extraction, saving on average 71 hours per review. They are proud to have 450 plus leading universities, institutions, and hospitals across the globe, and are on a mission to build the world's largest systematic review community who can bring the best evidence to the world quickly and efficiently. They will be presenting from now until 12:25. So I will go ahead and turn it over to our Covidence reps.
Thank you, Sarah. So hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Steffler. I'm part of the Covidence community, Covidence discovery team. And joining me today is Stephanie Harkin. Stephanie is part of the Covidence community team, and she'll be leading a presentation.
Thank you, and thank you all for having us here today. We really appreciate your time. I'll just jump right in since we only have 20 minutes. So Covidence was created by and for the research community. We have, like in our introduction, over 450 institutional partners with over 600,000 users around the globe. We have the world's largest review community, and we partner with Cochrane authors to help facilitate Cochrane reviews and save many, many millions of research hours and provide free access to those in low and middle income countries. So just to give you an idea about where Covidence comes into the process, Covidence comes into play after users have developed their protocol, consulted with a librarian, hopefully, on their searches and conducted their search. Once users conduct their search, then they can import their results into Covidence and begin the title and abstract screening, full text review, data extraction, quality assessment process. Then they can export their data outside of the platform to ultimately do the analysis they're going to do and write up their papers. Our goal is to reduce the amount of time and effort it takes for teams to complete systematic reviews, as well as scoping reviews, rapid reviews, umbrella reviews, while still maintaining a very high level of quality. That is very important to us, as well as our library community. So it's a huge investment of time, and you all are part of that process. So we see you guys as our partners. So it's not all about us and our researchers. You guys are who make this type of research possible through your expertise and through all the various resources you provide. So we really see you all as a team with us. So today I'm going to talk about how we can reduce the library workload, and then the ever popular question of AI in Covidence and AI in reviews in general. So we'll get started here. So right at the, like I said, right at the center of the loop are our librarians, and ultimately reducing the amount of time it takes. So we do have Covidence Academy. Let me put this link in the chat for you all. If some of your all's institutions already have access to Covidence, I should say, let us know in the chat if you do have access, or if you don't, if you're interested in learning more about getting your institution access to Covidence, let us know in the chat. But ultimately, our goal is to reduce the library workload. Sorry, I maximized my chat at big size. It took up my whole screen. To reduce our library workload. We now also offer more ways to save time. We have SSO now. So this means less of your time is spent managing individual user access, and of course, enhanced security on the account as well. We also have a suite of ebooks that are tool agnostic. These are not specific to Covidence and our platform. They're ebooks in general about protocol development, screening for systematic reviews, and data extraction. Let me put this link in the chat as well. These are free ebooks to download. So you can point this to anybody who has questions about protocol development or data extraction or screening. It's a great resource you can give to your researchers if you don't have time to do all this research yourself and teach one-on-one with your researchers, this way they can dive in and get this information themselves. And like I said, these are tool agnostic. They don't have anything to do with our platform. They are meant to help users learn about the systematic review process. And we have another ebook coming out soon about understanding review types in research. So I've talked about systematic reviews. That's what Covidence can be used for, as well as scoping reviews, rapid reviews, lots of different review types. There's this ebook that's coming out soon. You can, the link in the chat and the QR code, you can sign up to get notified when it is released, but that's coming soon about review types. So it's crucial in the protocol development process to pick the right type of review, because you guys might get questions. Research teams saying, I'm going to do a systematic review and I need to have it done next month. Well, maybe you don't need to do a systematic review. Maybe you need to do something like a rapid review instead. So this can also help point your patrons in the right direction and help them learn about the different review types that maybe they are not familiar with. So our goal is simple, is to reduce the amount of time and effort it takes for you all to provide a robust systematic review service to your patrons. But let's talk a little bit about AI. Switching gears, this is a question that we get all the time. So in our everyday lives, AI is enhancing it, from your Netflix suggestions to ChatGPT helping you write an email. It's becoming more and more part of our everyday lives. But in evidence synthesis, AI can have consequences. So when humans are part of the screening process, they're manually making that decision. But there are consequences if there is a missed study as part of the research. So these consequences ripple far beyond just a single study that's missed in a systematic review, because a single study isn't just an isolated drop of data. It ripples outward, first into the systematic review, but then into clinical guidelines, and then clinical guidelines affect decision-making in real patients, even national policies. So when we talk about the accuracy in evidence synthesis, we're really not just talking about science for science sakes, and we want to have AIs and the flashiest new features. We're talking about whether or not treatments are trusted, and whether patients get the right care, and whether the public health decisions are on solid ground. So that's it's a lot to think about when we're talking about integrating AI into a tool like Covidence, because the publications that result from reviews in Covidence could have very wide-reaching effects. So despite all the challenges when it comes to automation, everybody is racing to the top. But real leadership means choosing the right path and not just the fastest one. So at Covidence, we believe automation should be thoughtful, responsible, and built to last. So let's talk about what that looks like in practice. So we actually developed an AI tool and decided not to launch it. So we were, feeling the need to get to the latest and greatest tools and have the cleverest AI integration. But our users are your library patrons. So in the last year, we built that AI tool, and the screening tool hit 99% recall in testing. And our team was thrilled, ready to launch it. But in the real world data, with our beta testers. The average recall dipped slightly and some edge cases dropped to up to 66%. And that's a deal breaker for us when it comes to evidence-based research. And we could have marketed at the 99% and launched it, but we didn't because we ultimately want things to be accurate for all of our users, not just a subset of them. So we're proud of the work, but the integrity means prioritizing trust, your trust of us, over the hype of flashy new features. But honestly, that the decision not to launch made us better and shaped our automation principles. So let me even put this, I have another QR code link in the chat, but let me put it in the chat too, because all these QR codes, right? This is just a link to our automation principles, what we've written out as what we believe and what we see ourselves doing, see our mission in the future. So we are the first platform working with the Joint AI Methods Group. That includes the Cochrane and Campbell collaboration to set AI standards, and it's how we're ensuring our tools deliver real impact. And we are Cochrane partners, and for us, the gold standard in evidence synthesis is and will always be the Cochrane prescribed human workflow. So AI has a role, but it's not going to take over, and it's here to assist and act as the co-pilot. It can help with repetitive or tedious tasks, but the critical judgments remain with the experts, with the people. And Covidence is Cochrane endorsed, so that means that we take this responsibility very seriously. So how are we automating systematic reviews right now? A few of these features you guys are probably aware of if you have had Covidence for a while, but we do have the auto remove, non-RCTs feature, active learning in screening in the most relevant sort, and some semi-automated extraction. So the auto exclusion of RCTs was developed by Cochrane. Teams can auto exclude randomized control trials or non-RCTs before screening to help reduce the amount of time it takes to screen. Our active learning in screening, this takes into account team screening decisions to help move studies forward through to full text review faster. It brings studies most likely to be included first to the top of the screening list. And one of our newer features is our semi-automated data extraction. So it has AI suggestions for country, author's name, email, contact information, so on and so forth, where we'll have the suggestions, but then the user does need to go in and click on the checkbox to say whether they agree and want to include that semi-automated extracted data in their reviews, in their data extraction. We do also have some AI suggestions for linking in the interventions field as well. So you can see, teams can see in data extraction whether or not they want to include those linking suggestions. And coming soon is hopefully some more semi-automated extraction and quality checks in the outcomes and results data field. So in summary, Covidence values AI features, but we have very high standards in what we're going to release. We have those 3 features that I mentioned built into our platform currently, but we do always want to make sure we are at the forefront, but integrating what you can trust, and humans will always be in control. You can also try Covidence for free if you have not. If your institution does not have Covidence, you can sign up for a free trial. If you are interested in testing out different features and functionality, I'll put this link in the chat as well. We are at time. I want to make sure I give our other Lunch and Learn speaker enough time. So thank you so much. Thank you for responding to us in the chat. And we appreciate your time.
Yes. Thank you all. Thank you for the love for Providence. It's appreciated.
We do have 5 minutes for questions for Providence if anybody has any questions.
I wanted to let you know Ovid Walters Clore is on. So whenever you guys are ready, we're here and ready.
Okay, if there's not any questions for Providence, I think we'll go ahead and get started then. So our next presenters are Walters Clores, and so they're going to present on Ovid synthesis. And that is Walters Kluwer's evidence-based practice quality improvement and research management solution designed to connect people, processes, and evidence in a single collaborative environment. For librarians, it provides a structured way to support clinicians and nurse scientists across all stages of inquiry, from developing PICO questions and conducting literature searches to synthesizing evidence, tracking project outcomes, and dissemination. So they'll be presenting from now until 12:45.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much. And thank you, Sarah, for the communication by email the last couple weeks. Nice to see you in person.
Yes, you as well.
So David, do you want to go to the next slide? I'll introduce, kind of go over the agenda. We're going to do welcome and introductions for your Ovid Walters Clore team that covers the Midwest. Then David will present Ovid synthesis, nursing quality improvement, and GME. And then at the end, we'll talk about some Q4 promotions we have and any questions that you might have. So David, could you do the next slide, please? My name is Rebecca Runyon. I cover the state of Illinois, working with libraries across the state, both academic and hospital institutions. I'm joined here by Stephanie Casper. She's on the meeting. You want to say hello?
Everyone. I'm Stephanie Casper. I cover Michigan and Ohio, and I look forward to presentation. I'll put our contact information in the chat, so if you have any questions, feel free to follow up.
And then additionally, we have Ross, who couldn't be here today. He is actually at the IONL conference, working the booth there for the nursing conference. And so he covers Minnesota, Indiana, Wisconsin, Iowa, and Nebraska. And then I'm going to hand it over to David Troy, our National Business Development Manager for Ovid Synthesis. Thank you all. Thank you again for being here at this Lunch and Learn. We're excited to be able to be here. And thanks for welcoming us.
You. So my name is David Troy. I'm the National Business Development Manager for the product Ovid Synthesis. And what I'm going to do today is just talk through the benefits of this solution for health systems as well as for librarians, and why we created it. I was actually involved in the creation of Ovid Synthesis. It's a solution based on experiences that I used to have at hospital systems. And one of the things we know for a fact is that when people do projects like evidence-based practice, it actually has a significant improvement for the outcomes of patients. And it also has like a 94% projected or positive ROI. And so in today's healthcare landscape, having positive ROI is critical. And at the heart of that is making sure that the library can elevate their contribution to those projects and show the ROI that their role has. Now, there's also this stat here that says 35% of them do not have the best access to evidence. And at the heart of an EBP project is a librarian. Like the librarian is the E in EBP, the evidence. You're the people who know how to get the right evidence. But you have your challenges. You have to be able to identify what resources are necessary for the people building those projects. A lot of institutions don't have standard workflow, so it's hard for librarians to actively participate in the project work. Also to see the work that's going on. My experience has been, you could have one health system we have has like 2,000 nurse residency projects going on at one time. And my experience was with health systems, I'd go in and show people, new nurse residents, how to formulate a PICO question and find the evidence on Ovid. And if you have to serve all of those people, and librarians should have an active role in that, how do you see those projects to make sure that they know who you are and how to involve you? And that actually plays to the last one, which is elevating the role of the librarian into those critical KPIs for the hospital system. So whether it's financial or academic or just driving dissemination across your organization, the librarian should be at the centerpiece of all of that. And so Ovid Synthesis is designed to help you elevate your position into that. And we do that in multiple facets that I'll show you with a demonstration, but you can help coach people to find their best evidence. You can help them to search the literature. My experience was librarians would get involved in walking people through formulating a PICO question and educating them on EBP, as well as getting to the steps of dissemination. Ovid Synthesis can help to make sure that you have a role at each of those steps. We have many hospital systems around the United States and a lot of them in your area that subscribe to this solution. And the librarians at most of those institutions played an active role in getting the resource, as well as like making sure that the end users are satisfied. And one of the things we're super proud of is at any point, if you want to speak to one of our end users, we facilitate that. And the reason why that's important is what we've learned is that the people who use Ovid Synthesis actually complete more projects, about 111% more projects, more quickly. And why is that important? Well, let's think about the first slide. 89% improvement in patient outcomes, as well as ROI. So the more projects you do, the more impact you can have on the bottom line of the organization, as well as patient outcomes. And so Ovid Synthesis is a tool designed to help that happen. We also have institutions that have implemented Ovid Synthesis that show an increased usage of library resources and access to the library, which was honestly one of the reasons I got involved in it, was to try to make sure that there was a natural bridge between the end user and the librarians so that you could show them your resources and make sure that you could ask leadership for more financial support. And that's really one of the things we're trying to do here. We have a lot of institutions that speak publicly about Ovid Synthesis, and you can see some of the ones on here, the Children's Health in Texas, Centera. They all speak about how they use the resource to serve everybody from residency to evidence-based practice and quality improvement at their health systems. So that's just a little bit of the preamble. I'm going to jump over real quickly and I'll show you what this product actually looks like if I can get it to come up, and then maybe highlight the benefit for your role. So this is a web application and also a repository. So Ovid Synthesis, when people build projects, there's a dashboard where you can see all the projects that are actively going on within the institution. At most health systems we work with, the librarian has this view. And they can go in here and see what projects are going on that are magnet oriented, which ones have to do with certain hospital acquired conditions, and then also align with strategic initiatives. You could also, if you're working with graduate medical education, see all of the GME projects that are scholarly research projects in here and make sure that those residents know that you're there to assist them. We also constructed with Stanford and the Veterans Administration an ROI calculation. So when people are working working on projects, it shows that ROI organizationally. And you as a librarian can go in here and see, well, what projects was I involved in? What was the overall outcome of those projects and my contribution to the ROI for the organization? So there's a lot of power in this leadership dashboard. But at the heart of Ovid Synthesis, it's when people build projects that look like this. And there are little post-it notes. This is like a public area. You can see all the different projects that are going on. And when I was saying before about standardized workflows, what we do is we work with organizations to create like step-by-step workflows for doing EBP, quality improvement, or research. And the benefit to you is, when I used to do these trainings with residency, you could go in and say, well, we have a nurse residency program, and we want to make sure everybody's doing the projects this way. They go in there, they click their use template, they create their project, and then the projects would follow steps, basically like individual steps of the workflow of an evidence-based practice project. And we have different workflows depending upon what template you selected. That could be, this is one for a magnet project, and then I have one that's for PDSA or an IHI model for improvement that includes everything from fishbone diagrams to Pareto charts. But the benefit to you as a librarian is when people start these projects, you can be a participant in the projects as they go along and just basically view them or actively be accessible to them when they need help. So really elevating your role in their workflow. And so I'll just show you what that looks like. When that person started that project, they build their team. We have a lot of health systems like the 3 that I showed you before, where the librarian is one of the participants in here as a reviewer. And there's no limit to the number of projects or participants that work on something in Ovid Synthesis. Now we also, basically each of these tabs has a different function, but there's a pretty consistent functionality here. There's a description of what the person's supposed to do, and then they go about the process of entering information in these fields. For health systems that use Lippincott Procedures and Advisor, we link out to that. That is a common theme. We can also link out the UpToDate if you want to do that. But whatever you use, we're pretty agnostic about that. Now, as they scroll down here, they complete these fields. There's expert guidance that the health system and the librarian can change. You can actually, a lot of health systems, your librarians have created trainings on formulating a PICO question or other resources. We can take those trainings and plug it right into Ovid Synthesis. So your voice, your vision, your message can be directly integrated into their workflow as they're going along. So they could be thinking of you as their expert as they go. There's also a mentorship and collaboration component to Ovid Synthesis. You can click on this button, and at any point, the person can ask for help. So if you're a librarian, they could hit your name here and ask you a question, and you get an email from that person saying that they had a question. So that's some of the general functionality here. We also have approvals that are integrated into it. So a lot of leadership say, well, we want to spot check their PICO question before they proceed. So they click this button, it goes to somebody and they spot check it. Now that's another powerful area that a librarian can have a key role. You can have a spot check of what kind of evidence they put into their project. And I'll just note this. So Ovid Synthesis comes with Medline embedded. Okay, so when they search in the platform, it will search any of your organizational subscriptions that are tagged into Medline, and it'll automatically pull them in here. But we don't limit you to that. You can search any database across your entire hospital system and drag and drop resources into Ovid Synthesis, because we want to keep it agnostic, but we want to facilitate it as much as possible with what we have access to, which is Medline, Ovid Medline. And so when I searched in here, you'll note I find some articles listed by article type and the levels. And then if it doesn't find it, there's a button here that they can click, and it will ask the librarian to find it for them. So imagine you have all these people right now in your organization where they might be seeking evidence, but they don't know how to get it. Right now, they're in the middle of their project, they hit a button and it goes to you, and then you use your expertise in interlibrary loan magic to make it happen. And so that, again, elevates you into their workflow. Now, I'm going to click this article and it'll add it to my project. You'll also note here, we can have specific wording that says, make sure you check with your librarian before you do this, or this is the link to our hospital librarian resources. So we're really like embedding you into the common workflow, whether that's nursing, physicians, quality improvement. And now the article that I just clicked shows up here in this area. And again, you can drag and drop anything into this box, but I'll just show you what it looks like. For a lot of these projects, you want to keep track of the evidence so that you can use it for surveys or for accreditation. And so all evidence is now housed in here. And then there's a side panel where the person goes about appraising that literature. And we do have a function that you can, that's optional, that will scan the article and find components of what is necessary for this appraisal. And if they want to use that, it's highlighted in the article, and then they can add it to their appraisal form. Now, again, this is optional. So what we're doing is we're not doing any thinking for the person. We're just helping them to find it in the article so that it speeds up this workflow for them. And then when I clicked on that field, it shows up over here in this column. So that, again, is optional. There are some institutions that really want that and some that are a little bit resistant, and that's why we make it optional. Generates an evidence table for you in the platform. And then again, we have this integrated ROI function in here, which is a great way to calculate the value for the health system. And then you can get approval. And then again, at every project that people are working on with Ovid Synthesis, you have the ability to keep track of where it was disseminated, as well as produce a Word document, PowerPoint, and poster. And if I click those buttons, it'll just generate on your organization's letterhead everything that they need for dissemination. So imagine being the person who helps these new residents or people across your organization disseminate in these different manners. And so I know I went a little bit long there, Rebecca. Let me just jump back over to the PowerPoint and I will get that started real quick if I can remember how to do it.
Yeah, we're good, David. I think we have
good. I
about
didn't
8
know.
more minutes. Yeah.
I started getting worried that I was going too long there. Yeah. Now I'll just, while you're telling me that I have more time, I'll just highlight that librarians play a consistent role in all kinds of factors that have to do with quality improvement research and EBP. And so again, we want you to have that role in there. And when I'm showing you these workflows, there may be things that you want to have done. And one of the things we pride ourselves in is configuring these workflows to specifically align with your organization. So Endeavor Health and Ohio and Parkview, they all might do things a little bit differently, and we want to be able to support that. And so most of the times that we work with health systems, the librarian's actively involved in making sure that we're meeting that goal. Okay. So I will now jump back over to this PowerPoint, and I wanted to highlight, or Rebecca, you can do this, I can do this, but we do have a webinar that is coming up around the corner here at the end of this month, where I will co-present, probably wearing the same sports coat, with Bernadette Melnick and Lynn Gallagher Ford. They're going to talk a little bit about ROI, and then we have a relationship with them, and then we're going to walk through Ovid Synthesis as it relates to supporting evidence-based practice. And we would love it if you would join us and invite the people in your health system to listen to it. So, well, thank you.
Yeah, I will put, thank you, David. Thank you. I was just going to let them know that, Stephanie, I think you're going to put the link to register for this webinar in the chat so that you all have it. And before we go to the next slide, I think I'll open it up to questions about Ovid Synthesis. I don't think there was anything in the chat. I was kind of keeping an eye on it. Does anybody want to open up their mic and ask some questions?
Well, David, if we don't have questions, can you off the cuff talk a little bit about the AI features that we have?
Yeah, I can do that. We can do that. Let's see if I can get back over there real quick. So we have like 3 different AI features that we've integrated into Ovid Synthesis that are designed to make it so that people are excited to work on this kind of project work. And the first one is when they formulate a PICO question, and we developed this in collaboration with Duke, it will search their project, and this is all behind your firewall, so it's not leaving. It's like institutional Copilot. And it will help them to create an alternative Pico question. So that process really streamlines that for them. And we've heard organizations say this takes like an 8-hour process and like really take it down to 2. So that's something, again, it's optional, and you can click this button and then it will go to somebody and they can give you feedback on the Pico question. Now, I showed you the literature review one that scans the article in here that will basically find the evidence or the components to the critical appraisal. So it, again, will find this in the article, and then if you want to, you can copy it or add it specifically to your article or to your appraisal. And then the last component of it is artificial intelligence that will take everything that was completed in this project and create alternative outputs. So not only a draft abstract for a conference, but also a draft manuscript in Squire 2. All of these things need to be updated and sort of like altered by the end user, but it gives you a starting point, as well as newsletter and LinkedIn posts. And these are, with all of Ovid Synthesis, it continues to get better daily. We have a group of like 40 programmers that are making enhancements that are all based on customer feedback. So that's the AI, but again, optional. If you want it, you can have it. If you don't, you don't.
Thank you, David. I know the last couple minutes, I think we'll go back to the slides and just cover our Q4 discounts that we have, or promotions. So we have end of year promotions through December 31st. So I have them listed here. We'll send these out as well when we share. This will be in the slides that we share. Our ebooks, Buy More, Save More. Whoops, go back one more, David. I'm just going to go over them. Duties, and then also journal archives. We also, for those of you on the call that have total access, we have the total access archive at a great price at $30,000 for non-sub dollars, and that is up to 2020, the archive. And then the NEJM slices, and then our third-party ebooks, Springer, Cabby, Oxford. And then David, would you go to the next slide? And then we have our MEMF products, the health library that is used for a hospital and in medical schools. These are the one-time purchase. They're 10 to 30% off during this time. And then we have the shrinking bridges. So basically any of the products that you see at the bottom of this slide, as well as new a la carte journals or NEJM, are the rest of the year is no cost. So you'll essentially get like 14 months for the cost of 12. So thank you again for joining us today. Let me know if there's any questions. We'll pause for a minute here. And feel free to put them in the chat as well. We'll monitor the chat for the next couple minutes in case a question pops up.
There was a question that I just wanted to get back to, which is about Ovid Synthesis. So you can search the Ovid Medline, Ovid SP research platform, find evidence, hit a button, and it'll go into projects in Ovid Synthesis. So for librarians who want to do more advanced searching, you can use that platform, as well as Ovid Discovery. So if you use Ovid Discovery, you can search in there, find evidence, and hit a button, and it'll automatically redirect it into your projects, which is, nobody else has that as a functionality. And then I also wanted to reiterate, Ovid Synthesis it's an extra subscription. So a lot of people here today probably have access to Ovid and resources on Ovid. This is a new workflow solution that we created to basically integrate those resources that you subscribe to directly into the workflow of the end user. So just wanted to clarify that because I had that question earlier today.
Thank you so much.
All right, well, if there's no questions, we'll send it back over to you, Sarah. Thank you again for having us for your Lunch and Learn. Let us know if you would like to see a deeper dive demo, and we'll set something up. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today, and thank you to both of our vendors.
Thank you.
And with that, we will give you all 15 minutes of break time.
No, we will not. We will be starting in 1 minute. We will be starting the
That's right. We will go into